I transmigrated into the loser male lead of a strong female protagonist novel. I raised my hand and slapped the rich female protagonist across the face. It was all because the female protagonist called me a simp who could be easily dismissed with money. In front of everyone, I flipped the table. I cursed. Back then, you hired me as a simp to make yourself look attractive. Now you think we're familiar enough to act like this? Look at how long it's been since you last paid me. The female protagonist was stunned by my words. She said irritably, "Stop spouting nonsense." The next day, the school floor became a hot topic. Willow's rich and beautiful persona collapses as she turns into a deadbeat who refuses to pay her debts. Chapter 1. I transmigrated into the loser male lead of a strong female protagonist novel, tasked with helping him make a comeback. The female protagonist, Willow, got drunk at a nightclub and asked me to pick her up. I braved the rain and went. Her friends, gleaming with excitement, praised, "Willow really knows how to train dogs." "It's raining so hard," and George came right away. A friend sighed. "If all men were like my brother-in-law, I wouldn't be afraid of marriage anymore." Another friend chimed in. "There's nothing we can do. Men just don't understand what it means to put in effort. The men who used to chase me would really send money and gifts, but the guys I meet now generally don't have much awareness of putting in effort." When her friend said to me, "Brother-in-law, don't rush. Come take a break." Willow looked at me with disdain and said, "What brother-in-law? You're just a simp. I told you to come, and you really came." Her idol, Makoto, smiled indifferently and said, all right, it's not easy for anyone. Don't make fun of George. Let him go back. It's raining so hard. What if he catches a cold?" "Oh, so you're treating me like a dog now?" Willow snorted. "So what? He's just a poor loser. A little money is enough to get rid of him." Makoto shook his head helplessly and sighed. "Can't blame my brother. My mom controls the money at home. George's expenses are handled by my uncle, and my uncle's salary is basically all handed over." In the original story, the male lead and Makoto were stepbrothers. In the strong female protagonist novel, the father was useless while the mother was an exemplary independent woman. So the male lead's father was a soft rice man, while the male side character's mother was a powerful female CEO. The male protagonist is at the bottom of the food chain. No wonder he needed my help to make a comeback. The next moment, Willow took out a stack of money from her bag and pointed at the bottle of Flying Matai in front of me, saying, "Drink this bottle of wine, and this money is yours. How about it?" I took a step back, shocked, and stared at her. I said, "Miss Lou, are you out of your mind? What could this little bit of money do?" Willow's brows twitched. She bit her lip and said, "What did you say?" She furrowed her brows and looked me up and down, probably thinking this was just another one of my tactics to get her attention. I shook the rain off my clothes, grabbed a chair, and sat down opposite her. I said, "We agreed at the beginning that you'd hire me as your simp to prove your charm. Our relationship is purely contractual, but you haven't paid me in months. Take today, for instance. I came in the rain to find you, and I deserve at least $100,000 as overtime pay. Drinking alcohol is bad for health, so a $50,000 bonus is really cheap, right? And Makoto is here too, with that mouth of his like a sewage drain. I've had to endure his verbal humiliation. Isn't $88,000 reasonable for emotional distress? And yet, I reached out to take the money she had just prepared to hand me, and began counting it with a swish, 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 my 10 fingers blurring as I counted. I said, "Less than 20,000? Are you treating me like a beggar? When you asked me to help you, what did you say? You said you've always been insecure, lacking charm, and had to hire a simp to regain your confidence. I agreed because I felt sorry for you. But now you've really gotten into character, haven't you?" The room fell silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop, but then a male voice trembled in my head. How? How could you say that about a girl? If you keep talking like this, how is she supposed to live?" I was speechless. If I don't say it like this, she'll treat me like a dog. George, do you really like being treated like a dog? That's right. The original protagonist's consciousness was still there, but he couldn't control his body. and could only anxiously watch from the sidelines. Willow's face turned bright red with anger. She snapped, "Are you out of your mind talking nonsense? You're the one who degraded yourself and insisted on being my simp." I laughed and said to George, "Hey, did you hear that? She said you degraded yourself." George's voice was weak as he said, "Willow's just angry and saying things she doesn't mean." I responded, "Oh, but before, when you didn't make her angry, she still called you a loser quite a few times, didn't she?" George stubbornly argued, "Eventually she'll understand who truly cares for her. We've known each other since childhood. No one treats her better than I do." I frowned. "How about we make a bet? Within a week, I'll make her come back and seek you out. Are you brave enough to take that bet?" George said, "Can you stop making her angry? Don't you realize how much she must be hurting inside when you speak to her like that? When we go back, you need to apologize properly, comfort her, kneel on the washboard if you have to. Just listen to whatever she says." He kept rambling, but I wasn't interested in listening anymore. I just stared at Willow. I said, "Miss Lou, I see what's going on now. You want to fault on the debt? Huh? Fine. When a deal falls through, decency remains, but I have something I need to get off my chest." I looked around at the quiet, gossiping crowd and said, "You should watch out when you deal with her. This woman has terrible character. She doesn't pay back her debts." Willow was speechless. I extended a finger and poked her forehead from across the room, speaking slowly. "Owing money and not paying, turning a blind eye." Under the scornful gazes of the crowd, Willow completely broke down. I turned to leave, but she stood up and grabbed my arm, hissing, "Come back here." I smiled and said, "Oh, you're angry now, huh? You're embarrassed and losing control. Back then, you said all your friends had simps, but not you. You said it was because you had no charm and a bad temper. I told you not to think that way. But now I see, damn, you were right. Old spotted dove, get off me. Don't force me to do something." Willow seemed completely undone. She stammered, "I didn't... What are you talking about?" Makoto stood up, frowning as he looked at me. He said sternly, "George, what nonsense are you talking? Do you have no self-awareness? After all these years, it's clear to anyone with a brain that Willow has been avoiding you. Don't you see it?" I said, "Well, it's not like she's trying to show off in front of you, saying there are lots of people chasing her. To be honest, she's always insecure in front of you. Do you know why she keeps insulting me? Because she thinks I look a lot like you. She keeps using me for role play, and when she insults me, she's actually insulting you. But you're so proud of yourself. This woman isn't good news, so watch out." Willow's face flushed red. She suddenly smashed a wine glass, hysterically shouting, "Get lost." I slammed the door and left. Chapter 2. I didn't go back to the dormitory, but instead went to Willow's house. Willow gave me the key so I could run errands for her whenever needed. I took a comfortable hot shower, then proceeded to use Willow's expensive skincare products worth thousands on my body, even applying some to the soles of my feet before leaning back on the couch and resting my eyes. George was extremely anxious. He said, "Willow hates it when people touch her things. You need to fix everything and make sure she doesn't find out." I waved my hand in the air. I replied, "Is she upset about you touching her things? She hates you, not your actions. If Makoto did it, she'd be thrilled. Also, weren't these skincare products something you rushed to buy for her? What's the big deal if I use them?" This thought made me angry. In the plot, the female lead hires the male lead to be her simp, but in reality, the male lead still spends all his money on her, without hesitation. George couldn't argue back. He whispered, "When she comes back, don't confront her." Not long after, Willow returned. She didn't expect me to be here and, enraged, smashed a vase, pointing at me and cursing, "Crazy bastard! Get up right now and go explain things to Makoto." I asked, "How much?" Willow froze. I patiently repeated, "If you want me to help you, fine. Just pay me. How much are you offering?" Willow's face twisted with anger. "You still dare ask me for money?" I clapped my hands and said, "What else? We have a business relationship. You pay me, I act as your simp. I'm being paid to do your bidding. You think I'll work for free? Dream on. Willow looked at me in disbelief. After a long pause, she seemed to come to a realization, saying, George, stop pretending. You just want to get my attention with this. Don't you? Give it up. No matter what trick you pull, I'm never going to be interested in you. The original George grew anxious as well. He said to me, stop while you're ahead. Don't let her misunderstand you. I snapped my fingers and pulled out a playing card from between my fingers. I said, now that's what I call a trick. Understand, I was talking business with you just now. How much are you willing to pay me to continue being your simp? Willow's face turned red, but the male lead simp image was too ingrained. She repeated, no matter what you do, I'll never like you. You'll just make me hate you more. I replied, my time is valuable. So let me make this clear. Agree or disagree. I don't have time to waste on you. Willow's temper flared, and she bit her lip, saying, then just leave. You'll come crawling back to me, crying. I swaggered out. The next day, Willow came to find me in tears. She choked back sobs. What did you write on the message wall? Delete it now, I said. Then beg me. Chapter 3. I really didn't expect Willow to cry. She tried hard not to, but her tears just kept flowing. It was actually quite heartbreaking. I felt a little pity for her. So today I was more composed, and the urge to slap her wasn't as strong as yesterday. I said, stop crying. Just tell me what you want. Willow sniffled and said in broken sentences, delete those things you posted. I frowned. How did you know it was me who posted it? She said, some Lou called old Spotted Dove hired classmates to be simps and didn't pay them. Willow shoved her phone in my face. Who else would write this but you? I said, not necessarily. Yesterday there were so many people at dinner, and your friends were there too. Their mouths are looser than my great-grandmother's waistband. They overhear and gossip. What's the point of you yelling at me here? I then picked up my mug and took a sip of coffee, pulling out my phone to scroll through the message wall comments. I chuckled. Oh, looks like everyone's really fired up, like they're your mortal enemies. Their mouths must be filled with poison. They're cursing you so harshly. Willow broke down. I can understand. She was an illegitimate child. Her biological father gave her money but no love, and her mother wasn't competent either. She had always been a fragile and sensitive girl, emotionally unstable from the start. Her life was built on fantasies of getting revenge on her scummy father and pushing away her malicious brother, imagining stepping on them to fill the emptiness inside. As for the original protagonist being her simp, she hated it on the surface, but the fact that their relationship lasted this long proved she needed that sense of security too. But what does that have to do with me? Instead of understanding her, I understand myself more. I'm driven by greed, obsessed with money and self-interested. I only care about my own benefits. So what if she lacks love? I'm the one who's truly pathetic, lacking money. Sitting here drinking coffee with this dumb girl makes me feel like I'm dirty in my own eyes. With that thought, I close the message wall and open a short video, scrolling through clips of beautiful women doing suggestive dances. Willow slammed the table. What will it take for you to explain things clearly? Fine, I'll admit I'm your girlfriend. Will that work? The original George was overjoyed. Quick, agree. I poured half a cup of coffee directly onto Willow's head. I yelled, shut your filthy mouth. Who wants someone like you, a cheap piece of crap, as a girlfriend? George was speechless. The people around us began to gossip, some recognizing her as the main character from the message wall, and started filming with their phones. Willow hurriedly wiped her face with a tissue, trembling with rage. She bit her lip. Then what do you want? I said, you pay me, I do the work. It's a service with a clear price. Willow finally understood reality, puffing up with anger. How much? I asked, how much is your rich girl persona worth? Willow didn't expect me to respond like this. She paused for a moment, then quickly adjusted her expression. 10,000 is enough, right? I burst out laughing and patted her shoulder. I said, is this even reasonable? The fake socialite still knows the saying, you can't catch the wolf without losing the sheep. You think 10,000 yuan can settle this? Oh, you're just bullying me because I've read books and have good manners. Otherwise, I'd have ripped you apart with my words. I opened my phone and transferred half the money for her coffee. I said, since we each drank half of the coffee, let's split it. Then I stood up and walked away with the attitude of someone who didn't care about anyone. Chapter 4. The message wall updated again. Simp actor demands payment. Angrily throws coffee at the deadbeat. It wasn't me who posted it. Who knew that today's college students love gossip so much? I was just as surprised. When Willow came to find me the second time, she was clearly a lot more humble. She got straight to the point, saying, "How much do you want?" I tapped the table and asked, "How much can you offer?" Willow stammered, 200,000, no more. I nodded. 200,000, and I'll help you explain to Makoto that I love you but can't have you, so I'm slandering you. Willow frustratedly asked, "Just explain to him?" I shrugged. "Isn't he your idol? Your relationship is worth that much, isn't it? If not, I'll leave. Don't bother me." Willow grabbed my sleeve and handed me a card. I pushed the card back. I said, "No need for the card. Just transfer the money to me. Here, sign this contract, and I'll go get the invoice for you later." Willow frowned. "Fine." Honestly, I didn't think she had the brains to flip this on me and send me to prison. But in our relationship, I had to be cautious with her. The original George watched the whole thing wide-eyed. He asked, "How can you extort her?" I replied, "She's been using you as a simp, so why can't I extort her?" George responded, "She's been pampered her whole life. It's normal for her to be a little spoiled. If you give her your heart, she'll eventually understand that I'm the one who truly loves her." I laughed, mocking him. "She treats you like a simp, strings you along, and it's not because she's spoiled or childish. It's because she doesn't respect you. It's that simple." George sighed. "Since I'm the one pursuing her, it's only right for me to put in more effort." I was speechless. Who told you that just because you're chasing her, you should put in more effort? If, as you say, you're supposed to put in more effort because you're chasing her, then great. Now she needs something from me, and I'm going to make her pay. Doesn't that make sense? George said, "That's what everyone online says." I snapped. "You're confused, George. The theory that if you're chasing someone, you should pay for things is like saying if I had $1 billion, I should donate half. It's because most women don't need to chase men. Even if the woman does chase the man, if he lets her pay, she'll feel like he's beneath her. And the common scenario is that the woman offers to pay, and when the man refuses, she can accept it again, feeling good about herself. This way, her moral logic makes sense again. Willow hiring you as a simp without paying is the same logic." George said, "But..." I interrupted impatiently. "Remember this. Chasing someone doesn't mean you owe them. If you don't like them, you can reject them. If you like them, you wouldn't feel good about making them pay. Not rejecting someone you don't like while guilt-tripping them into paying for you is called emotional manipulation. So since she agreed to pay, I'll never say it's unnecessary. This way, she'll see whether the situation is reasonable or not. If you keep giving without question, she'll never understand this lesson." George wanted to say something else, but after looking at his account balance, he was left speechless. After a long pause, he finally said, "Don't spend that money recklessly. Her birthday is coming up. Save it for a gift for her." I was pissed off. I immediately opened a shopping website and cleared my shopping cart with one click. George was shocked. "Why are you buying so many things?" I replied, "If you like being a simp, that's your business. Now that I'm in control of this body, I'm not going to let myself lose out. I earned this money through my own efforts, so don't make a fuss." With that, I headed straight to the mall, bought a whole new wardrobe, and even booked a full-body massage. I stood up, and George hesitantly said, "Seems like you're really enjoying this." I rolled my eyes and said, "Whether I enjoy it or not has nothing to do with you. Before I finish my task, I'm going to spend all the money. Once I'm done, you can continue being Willow's simp and keep playing the servant like before." George was speechless. That evening, Willow and Makoto went for sushi and called me halfway through, asking me to join them. I was brewing tea by the fireplace when I heard the call, took a sip of my health tea, and asked, "How much is the appearance fee?" Willow was stunned and paused for a while before saying, "What appearance fee?" I said, "The money you gave me is for me to explain things to Makoto. Do you think I'm going to come meet you in the middle of the night for free? I won't even lie in a comfortable bed. And you're asking me to go running to meet you? Can you stop being so shameless?" Willow bit her lip and said, "You don't go too far." I snapped back, "Don't go too far." I yelled, "You've been spoiled with too much politeness. Now you don't even know the difference between north and south. What kind of relationship do we have for you to order me around like that? I'm living to enjoy life. How many pounds of horse piss did you drink to dare treat me like a servant?" Willow stayed silent for a moment, then impatiently said, "Fine, I'll give you 50,000. Hurry up and come." I asked, "And what happens when I come back?" I tapped the table. "It's so late. The dorm will be locked by the time I get back. Are you going to have me sleep on the street? 5,000 for going and 6,000 for coming back. Hurry up and transfer the money to my Alipay, and the hotel room costs will be paid separately. If I don't get the money, I won't just post this on the campus message wall this time." Willow was quick to comply. 2 minutes later, I received a transfer of 110,000 through Alipay. George asked, "Why did she pay so quickly?" I replied, "It's useless trying to reason with someone like her. She won't listen to a normal conversation, but if you curse at her, she'll behave." George thought for a moment and said, "So you mean if she's unreasonable, you don't need to be polite?" I let him figure out for himself and took a taxi to the address Willow gave me. Willow and Makoto were eating sushi. I walked up to Makoto and said condescendingly, "Why didn't you tell me you were having dinner?" Makoto smeared food on his mouth, and as soon as he spoke, it was nothing but dirty words. He cursed, "Son of a bitch. What the hell are you doing here, you bastard? Have you gone crazy from being poor? You've lost all your dignity for money. Aren't you Willow's hired simp? What does our meal have to do with you?" I grabbed Willow by the arm like a chicken and lifted her up. I asked, "Tell him what our relationship is." Willow, confused, asked, "What relationship?" I laughed and said, "I love you but can't have you, so I want to force you to be mine. That's our relationship." Willow, still not following, nodded dumbly and said, "Yeah, that's the relationship." Makoto looked at us suspiciously and asked, "Then why did you say she paid you to be her simp?" I replied, "So what? This is how we domineering losers are. If we can't have something, we slander it. Remember that day when you believed it?" One less competitor. Makoto was speechless. He looked at Willow, but no matter what, he couldn't find the previous sense of superiority. He said, "Willow, I don't like him. Don't let him bother you anymore." Willow mimicked like a parrot and said, "Don't come bother me anymore." I replied, "You want me to eat shit? I won't even spare you if I'm a ghost." With that, I turned around and left, heading to a nearby 5-star hotel to book a room. In the middle of the night, I got a call from Willow. Her voice was trembling as she asked what I was doing. George excitedly said, "Does she want to have a heart-to-heart with me? This is the first time she's spoken to me like this." I answered the phone and said, "Oh, did you not get to be with Makoto and now you're falling apart? Am I your emotional garbage, Ken? Why don't you think about sharing your good news with me? Do I owe you something?" This time, Willow responded obediently. She said weakly, "I'll give you money." George was speechless. Chapter 05. Willow transferred the money. After receiving it, I spoke in a calm tone. "Say what you want to say." Willow started rambling on about the plot I already knew. She was an illegitimate child, watching helplessly as a legal wife brought people to their door, slapping her mother and leaving her with psychological scars at such a young age. Later, when her mother rose in status, she moved to live with her father but was ostracized by the other children. Only Makoto stood up to speak for her. I remained silent, quietly listening to her ramble while in my head. George started to sob. After sharing her childhood trauma and life pain, Willow sighed deeply. She choked up and said, "George, I know you're treating me like this because you're angry with me. I've thought it through. Actually, you've been really good to me. Maybe I can give you a chance. We can try it out." George perked up excited. "Go confess to her." I sat up, twisted open a bottle of water, took a sip, and cleared my throat. Then I spoke very clearly. "Where do you get the audacity to ask me to take the bait? Do you think I'm a garbage picker?" Willow became furious and said angrily, "George, don't you dare be so shameless." I retorted, "The shameless one here is you." I sneered, "Look at yourself in the mirror. What is there for me to like about you? Lazy, spoiled, with a bad temper, picky eater, can't even wash your own underwear, failing at least 4 subjects each semester, fainting after a few steps in the sun, lacking in every area, morally, intellectually, physically, aesthetically, and in work ethic. What makes you think I would accept you?" She puffed up. "So what? Haven't you been my simp for so long?" I said calmly, "Well, now even I, your simp, am gone. Willow, you're finished. I don't want you anymore." Willow was speechless. George was also speechless. After a long pause, Willow asked, "Is that really how you think of me?" George panicked and said, "No, no." I said coldly, "Willow, you know very well how trashy you are, right? If you really thought you were as good as you think, why does Makoto treat you like a fish in a tank, just flirting but never confirming anything with you?" Willow was hit where it hurts but stubbornly said, "It's just because of my background. You think he's like you? He has family values." I laughed. "That's rich. We're family, aren't we? He has family values, but I'm not a garbage dump." Willow lost it. She screamed hysterically, "George, you think you're so great? You're a Phoenix man. Before, you kept looking up to me because my family is rich. You like pretending to be the gentle, warm man. Did you know that every time you try to please me, I just wanted to slap you across the face? If you weren't nice to me, do you think I'd even bother with you? What do I need from a penniless guy like you?" I laughed loudly. "You don't want to bother with me, so why did you call me in the middle of the night and say we should try something? You don't want anything from me? Then don't accept the things I send you. Isn't it because your backup plan failed, and now you're embarrassed and attacking me? Let me teach you what personal attacks really are." I said, "Willow, listen carefully. Stop posting selfies on your WeChat moments. No one will think you're some rich girl because every picture of yours looks like a low-tier nightclub girl getting ready for work. With your attitude, if you even touch one piece of my fruit platter, I'll really knock your head off." Willow was speechless. Without waiting for her to speak, I directly hung up the phone and swiftly turned it off. I thought George would be angry that I insulted the girl he liked, but he wasn't. He just spoke in a melancholic tone. "So this is how she thinks of me." I replied, "If she really thought you were great, she would have gotten together with you a long time ago. She's not stupid. She wouldn't pass up on someone she thinks is good." George let out a long sigh. I softened my tone and said, "Why bother caring about the words of the bitch?" Suddenly, George began to cry out in despair, startling me. He choked up and said, "I know everyone thinks that way. Even my dad says I'm useless." Once he calmed down, I spoke slowly. "George, do you know where your problem lies?" George responded, "I know I'm too stupid. I can't do anything right, and I always embarrass the people around me." I sighed helplessly and said, "No, your problem is that you always look for the reason within yourself. It's clearly your dad who, in order to please his wealthy wife, can't treat you well, even suppresses you, and you believe everything he says." With that, I opened my phone and searched for a video. It was from the second year of middle school, when George played the piano at the school's evening event. The young boy wore a white shirt, was thin but had a straight back. Under the spotlight, his gaze was focused, his eyes sparkling like stars. I said, "Remember? After this event, Makoto was angry because you stole his spotlight. The girl he liked passed you a love letter, and he sulked at home for a long time. Your dad, in an effort to please him, stopped your piano lessons and even sold your piano." I then found an account George no longer used and found a video from a few years ago. I said, "This video went viral with millions of views. Netizens said you were so talented, and gave you donations. Makoto, furious, reported you to your dad, saying you weren't focused on your studies. Without a second thought, your dad deleted your account. I then opened a WeChat post from George's dad showing a family photo. Makoto was dressed in designer clothes with a Patek Philippe watch gleaming on his wrist, while George wore a tracksuit, his expression stiff, his eyes dull. How could George, raised in such an environment, not feel inferior? How could he not suffer from inner turmoil? The reason he liked Willow was that he felt a subtle mutual understanding between them, but he had long been worn down, losing basic judgment, believing any spiritual condemnation others threw at him. Thus, being a simp and accepting abuse was never his intention. He just thought the only way to receive love was to give all of it. He believed love had to be earned through hardships. I explained all this to him, and in my mind, George gradually calmed down. I closed my eyes, and I could see him locking himself in a small dark room, curled up in a ball. George, do you still believe that Willow's evaluation of you holds any credibility? George took a deep breath and quietly said, "Maybe not." I smiled, knowing that this was the beginning of his transformation. By taking control of his body to help him counterattack, it wasn't a true reversal. The real change had come when he altered his own thoughts. Well, here I was thinking about how to help the simp stand up, but it seems I was unnecessary. He had already transformed into a man like an eagle. Willow stared at me for a while, and Makoto cleared his throat twice. Only then did Willow snap back to reality. She rolled her eyes and said, "George, why do you act so pretentious? It's Makoto's birthday, and you come here flaunting your wealth, stealing his spotlight." I replied in confusion, "No way, no way. I wear this every day. You think I'm showing off my wealth? That doesn't sound like something Miss Lu would say." Willow was speechless. Her face turned red, and she pulled out her gift to give to Makoto, saying nothing more. Makoto's smile was more painful than crying. After all, what she had said implied that I had indeed stolen Makoto's thunder. Once everyone had arrived, just as in the plot, someone else showed up. Makoto looked at me and pretended to be helpless, saying, "George, with one more person, there's no room in the car. Why don't you just take a taxi?" I took out my car keys and waved them in front of him, saying, "It's fine, I'll drive myself there." Makoto froze and asked, "You bought a car?" The girl who had just called me a fan excitedly said, "Senior, if you're driving, can I ride with you?" I walked with her toward the parking lot, smiling, "Of course, don't worry." I drive very steadily. I didn't bother to look at Makoto's expression as I opened the navigation and headed toward the villa. My parents were already there waiting. The gifts were neatly arranged, and Makoto finally seemed to cheer up a bit. When Mr. Wong saw me, he froze for a moment. He frowned and asked, "George, what have you been up to lately?" I replied, "What's wrong, Dad? Why do you ask?" Makoto leaned in and said, "Uncle, you don't know? George is doing great now. He's making money by doing his own social media and getting advertisements." Mrs. Ito smiled and nodded, speaking with a hidden edge in her tone. "George is doing well, but don't let it affect your studies, and be careful about the people you associate with." Ito's mother was also partly responsible for George's situation. She had always disliked George, but she was too image-conscious to let anyone know she mistreated her stepson. So she had Mr. Wong play the villain. Mr. Wong had long been used to suppressing his biological son while appeasing his wife and Makoto. As expected, his expression immediately changed. He angrily shouted, "Are you making videos again? You're still a student. What do you need social media for? There's plenty of time to make money. Why are you doing this nonsense?" His raised voice caught the attention of Makoto's friends. I was hoping they'd pay attention. I said, "Sorry, Dad. I know earning my own living expenses would make you this angry. I've just been really envious of Makoto. He has so much money for his living expenses. He has a driver to take him everywhere, and he buys whatever he wants." I sighed, continuing, "You give me so little for living expenses. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have thought about making my own money. Dad, I'm really sorry to trouble you." Mr. Wong's face turned red as I exposed his shortcomings, and he angrily retorted, What does it have to do with you comparing yourself to Makoto? Have I ever let you starve? I feigned an innocent look and said, but I barely have enough for food and drink. I spent all my living expenses on medical bills for flu, and you told me to be frugal. That month, I didn't even have enough to eat. I'm not comparing myself to Makoto. His living expenses are covered by Auntie. Mine are from you. I know there's no point in comparing. The onlookers were watching our drama, and someone whispered, "This isn't right, is it? Seems like once there's a stepmother, there's also a stepfather. How could a son's living expenses still be lacking?" Mr. Wong was too embarrassed and angry to retort, but he couldn't figure out where I had gone wrong. If he doesn't give me money, then I make my own. What's the problem? He was so angry he was panting, and Ito's mother gently patted his back, saying, "Old Wong, calm down. What's going on?" The kid's friend to hear. Mr. Wong snapped back to reality, forced a smile, and instructed, "Go do something useful." He expected me to run around like I do at home, working like a horse. I couldn't care less. With a lively tone, I said, "All right, everyone, let's start preparing the barbecue. I'll go wash the vegetables. Who wants to join me?" The younger girl raised her hand first, and soon several other students followed suit. Everyone got to work, and Mr. Wong and Ito's mother, feeling awkward about just sitting on the sofa waiting to eat, reluctantly helped set the table. Everyone worked together, and soon we were eating and drinking, the atmosphere improving significantly. Makoto began opening his gifts, and finally, a smile appeared on his face. When he opened mine, he found a PS5. He nodded reluctantly, indicating his satisfaction. Just as he was about to put it back, he suddenly noticed large scratches all over it. Makoto was furious. "George, did you get me a second-hand piece of junk as a gift?" Mr. Wong also looked at me, his face full of displeasure as he thought I had embarrassed him. He angrily shouted, "George, is this how your dad teaches you? You make money and you're still so stingy?" I responded, "What? On my last birthday, didn't you give me Makoto's old phone as a gift? I thought this was just a normal thing in our family." Mr. Wong's face turned red, frozen in place. When George was in the second year of high school, he received a phone as a birthday gift, and he was ecstatic. But when Makoto passed by, he casually said, "This is the one I used. I couldn't be bothered to sell it as secondhand. If you like it, just take it." Mr. Wong stood awkwardly, but because he didn't want to upset Makoto, he didn't comfort his own son. He only said, "You've been given it, just use it." Today, the boomerang came back to hit him, and he clenched his fists tightly. He said, "How can it be the same? Today is Makoto's birthday." I laughed. "Yeah, isn't it all just birthdays? Makoto hasn't given me a birthday gift yet. I think I've been generous enough." Mr. Wong, embarrassed and furious, looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Willow looked at me and suddenly said, "Enough, George. Are you deliberately making Makoto angry on his birthday?" Before I could speak, George's voice sounded in my head. "Can I say a few words to her?" I handed over control of my body to him. I thought George would soften his attitude, have a good talk with Willow, and explain things rationally. After all, he had once been the submissive, silent male protagonist who never spoke up. To see him change into someone like this made me quite proud. But I never expected George to go straight for the kill. He said, "Willow, what do you like about Makoto?" Willow frowned and said, "Didn't I already tell you? I like Makoto because of his sense of justice. When I was all alone, he was the one who stood up for me. He's not like you, so despicable and shameless." George sneered, "Why don't you think about who put you in that situation? Left you isolated and helpless? It was Makoto. He bad-mouthed you behind your back for your shameful background, yet still tried to get close to you and manipulate you, using you like a fool. The only person who truly stood by you and spoke up for you from the start to the end was me. Too bad your eyes are too blind to see that." Willow stood there stunned. George finished his beer, stood up and said to her, "I have a phobia of giant things. I'm afraid of big idiots. You guys enjoy your meal. I'll be leaving now." With that, he stood up and walked away, leaving without a trace of care. I was in tears. The mute male protagonist finally found his voice, and what he said pierced to the heart. Before he got into the car, he handed control of the body back to me and asked, "How did I do just now?" I clapped my hands loudly and said, "Take away the highest and lowest scores, and you get an average of 10 points. You're allowed to be proud." Chapter 09. After returning home, I naturally received a barrage of calls from Mr. Wong. It was hilarious. Who cared about him? I didn't block his number, just muted it and didn't answer. The thought of him angrily stomping his feet on the other end made me happy. A soft man who uses his own son as a stepping stone to please a rich wife. What a joke. George and I collaborated on a video, the topic being bizarre families and personal growth. That's the good thing about doing social media. You can turn any shitty situation into material to make money. As expected, the video went viral. Someone dug up a video of George playing a dreamy piece in middle school, stunning everyone. It perfectly matched the fact that he hadn't touched the piano in years just because his biological father wanted to please his stepson. People sighed in regret. George truly had a lot of talent back then. Mr. Wong was doxxed, and his social media accounts were flooded with scathing comments. The criticisms were brutal and unrelenting. He broke down and called me hundreds of times, but I just didn't answer. He sent me angry texts, and I replied, "Thanks, Dad, for the material. I can make another video now." He didn't dare to scold me anymore. It was so funny that video had 3 ads embedded, and I made a good amount of money. Half a month later, Willow found me. She looked pitiful, gripping my wrist and refusing to let go. She choked up and said, "George, I'm sorry." It turned out that during this time, she had been reaching out to people she knew in the past, trying to verify what had happened. Of course, what George said was all true. It was Makoto who had led the bullying and isolation, deceiving her all along. In the original story, Willow also found out about this at about this point, and then began her vengeful rampage against Makoto. When that scumbag's downfall was complete, she turned to the simp George, the one who had always stood by her. Looking at the tearful Willow in front of me, I asked George, "Do you want to do this, or should I?" George said, "I'll do it." So I handed control of the body to George, and he immediately raised his hand and slapped Willow across the face. Willow covered her face, stunned. She never expected this outcome. In her mind, George would be conflicted, would hesitate. How could he just slap her right away? George angrily shouted, "Now that the child's gone, you remember to come feed it, huh? Come on, tell me where did you go wrong?" Willow's lips trembled. "I shouldn't have..." Before she could finish, George slapped her again. He said, "Shut the hell up. Just hearing you talk is annoying." Willow choked out, "George, I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. Give me a chance, okay?" George was furious. With a loud slap, he gathered all his strength and slapped Willow again, shouting, "Look at yourself in the mirror. What is there about you that's worth me liking? Lazy, spoiled, hot-tempered, picky eater. Can't even wash your own underwear. Fail at least 4 subjects every semester. Faint after walking a few steps in the sun. Lacking in every single area. What makes you think I'd ever take you in?" I said, "Hey, that's my line." George looked at me and said, "Because I realized you were spot on." Willow wavered and insisted, "George, please, if you just give me one more chance, I'll do anything." George pulled out his phone and showed her his WeChat chat interface. He laughed and said, "Take a look for yourself. How many beautiful women are lining up to be my girlfriend? See, compare yourself to them. Where's your advantage? How dare you even think about this?" Willow froze. She looked at George, her pupils trembling. In a desperate attempt, she mumbled, "My family has money." George pulled out his phone and showed her his bank account balance. He laughed again and said, "What's so great about that? Your family's money has nothing to do with me. The one thing I'm not lacking right now is money. I don't care how much my partner earns as long as I have enough. I can find someone younger and prettier. What's so hard about that?" Willow seemed to finally realize that maybe, just maybe, she and George were never meant to be. She walked away dejectedly, later posting a WeChat status. "The man who once had me in his heart and eyes is finally lost me." George replied, Delete it. Aren't you embarrassed? Shameful, sister. I was stunned. All I can say is, good guy. The mute male protagonist is totally revamped into a sharp-tongued star. But then I felt a bit strange. His transformation seemed too resolute. I asked, George, do you really have no intention of turning back? I'm not an outsider. Just tell me the truth. George replied, if I turn back, wouldn't I be betraying all the things you've done for me? I was speechless. As shocked as I was, it somehow made perfect sense. He was still that male protagonist who cared deeply about how others felt and was always considerate of others. Only now that person was me. So, this outcome was destined to not let him down. Chapter 10. My task was completed, and I could leave at any time, but George was reluctant to let me go, so I stayed for a few more months. After all, there was still a show to watch, and I was happy too. Mr. Wong became completely infamous. Everyone knew he was a soft man who used his son as a stepping stone. The rich woman found him embarrassing and divorced him. He didn't get anything from the divorce, so he came to find George. George told him he could sue for alimony. He became furious and humiliated, crying loudly in the street. George took out his phone and recorded the whole thing. Another fresh piece of material for a new video. Making lots of money again. Makoto also became a famous figure at school. Everyone knew he had bullied George, and his social life was in shambles. He didn't even want to live in the dorm anymore. No one wanted to hang out with him, so he went to a bar and met a young beauty. The beauty got pregnant by accident and tricked him into thinking he was in love. He went home to tell his mom he wanted to marry her, but it turned out to be a trap. The woman was a professional scammer. She took him to gamble, and he lost a lot of money. Expected his mom to clean up the mess. It said his mother was so angry she ended up in the hospital twice. Willow completely died socially. Now, whenever her name comes up, people say, oh, that's the one who hired a simp but didn't even pay him. Shameful sister. Thanks to her for providing yet another piece of material. She often came to find George, but George was completely over her. The proof. Now, whenever she came around, George would just slap her, without even bothering to speak to her. The day I left, George said to me, will I get to see you again? I replied, probably not. You're no longer the mute male protagonist. You don't need my help to make a comeback. George patted his shoulder and said, then goodbye. I wish you happiness, success, and everything goes well. What's your name? I smiled and said, my name doesn't matter. You can just think of me as another version of you in this world. George froze for a moment, then smiled and softly said, all right then. I wish you happiness, success, and everything goes well. The other me in this world.